Hi, everyone, and welcome to Conversations on Sex, Addiction, and Relationships. I'm Dan Drake, and I'm joined with my friends and colleagues, Jeannie Battoni, Wendy Conquest, and Tim Stein. And today we're going to be talking about dating for partners after the relationship. So I'm curious, you guys, what do you think about this topic? Uh, how do we see dating for partners after the relationship?
Well, I
You know, I
first want to say that this is kind of a scary topic for, I think, a lot of partners to be listening to, because I think that the majority of partners really want the relationship to work, really want their addicted spouse to be in recovery, to be healing from the addiction. So it's this piece of, well, what happens when one person, we could talk about that too, the effects of when a partner says, okay, it's over, and the effects of when the addict says it's over. I think it's much harder when the addict says that the relationship is over than when the partner does, if he's the addict. Um, and then when there is divorce or legal separation, if they were never married, what happens then? I don't think we talk in the field a lot about that. I think it's an important topic.
yeah, I don't think we talk very much about it in the field. I think there are a few people who sort of specialize in that sort of niche, but it's an important conversation because not all relationships work out.
Right.
Not all relationships work out. And we really don't want to leave behind the people who that relationship doesn't work out. So I'm really glad we're doing this topic. And just for listeners to remind, we've already done a different episode on dating after relationship for the one who did the betraying with the compulsive behavior or sex addiction. So this is kind of, part 2 of that. And so if you're curious, go back and listen to the other one. But I think there's a sense of aloneness because of so many services. Do you guys find this? So many services kind of helping the relationship, but then relationship doesn't work out. And where do they go? What do they do? Do you guys find that there's a good amount of services, or it's like up and coming?
What do you mean
Uh,
by services?
well, when Jeannie says that, the first thing I think of is, I don't know if this is nationwide, but there's a program called Rebuilders. And so it's basically a divorce recovery group.
Hmm.
And so I'm in Boulder, Colorado. So in the Denver metro area, there's a couple of groups like this. And so I've regularly referred people who are divorcing, whether there's addiction present or not. And so basically everyone in that group is going through a relationship ending, whether it's marriage or not, but they're basically experiencing the loss and the grief of the end, and trying to find themselves again and trying to rebuild. And in that process, they're really connected to other people that are in the same place.
And when is that for folks who are divorcing and in relationship no matter what? Not necessarily.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not specified.
Okay. So that's what I meant, Tim, was, specialized services for addicts, partners in particular, because that's what we're focusing on today. But services, support groups, classes, information,
Yep.
because it also really sometimes impacts the separation divorce process. So that's what I meant by services. What are you thinking?
Well, I'll say for myself, I mean, I've had to learn over the years somehow, like I came into this work, I want couples to make it if people are partnered and if that's what they want. That's I guess my bias that I coming in with. So it felt early on when relationships, wouldn't quote unquote make it, that was somehow a disappointment or a failure. And of course it's a grief process. Of course it's a grief journey, no matter what. I don't think that's what any couple initially wants. But I've also learned, I don't know what you all have seen, but I've seen with some of my partners that they're empowered no matter what happens in their relationship. And I find that it can be a success even if the relationship doesn't work, that the partner can find themselves and they can, I guess, build a new sense of self regardless of what happens with the relationship. So I guess I've come to see the outcomes differently. I hope couples can make it if that's what they're wanting, but I also have seen partners move through this whole process, and sometimes the relationships don't work out and they are stronger than ever. So I guess I just want to say that I think it can be, to your point, you guys, like, it can be discouraging to think that, partners want to see and couples want to see hope. Like, oh, it's hard to talk about the after. But I do think that there can be, individuals can be strong and can grow and can be even stronger even post divorce. So I just want to put that out there as some hope for personal empowerment.
I think so. And I also think that one of the things that I hear you implying is that when you've got a couple in recovery, if the relationship ends, it's not always because the addict can't get sober or the patterns keep continuing. Sometimes it's just an acknowledgement of the reality of too much damage has been done. And as much as I want to try to make this work with you and I want to stay here, I keep having this resistance. I keep pulling back. My whatever it is it's just too much. And I wish you all the best, but from a place of sadness, we have to acknowledge that this relationship isn't going to make it. And we need to step off and find our own journeys so that we can each heal and, have that fulfilling life moving forward. And like you said, embrace that empowerment. But unfortunately, we can't do that together.
Mm-hmm. I think a really important part, I hear what you're saying, Dan. When you first started this work, you were really hoping to help the couple stay together. And I think I've always been the middle of the road where it was trauma healing. I want to help you heal your needs, your processes. And if you decide to stay in the relationship, we can work that. And if you decide not to stay in the relationship, we'll head that way too. But always doing that trauma healing. So I'm just thinking, let's turn the conversation. Like, what are some of the things that are hard when you've made a decision and the relationship is ending and the grief and the loss, sometimes relief. A lot of partners experience some relief, fear, excitement. But what are some of the struggles that they have? What do you guys see?
I think one of the biggest ones is just if it's a heterosexual relationship and the partner is the female, is trusting men again. And we can flip that if the male is the partner and in a heterosexual relationship, him trusting women again, I think it's just huge how, and intellectually people can say everyone's different, we all have unique, pasts and histories and personalities. But I think that traumatic piece can get so ingrained, entrenched that any person that resembles their former spouse or their former partner is going to potentially activate that trauma response. So I think that can be just a general big one.
Isn't that such an important piece? I'm sorry, I think I interrupted you, Dan. That the partner learns their trauma response so that they can have mastery over it and understanding, okay, that's happening. Oh, that's what that is. My trust is being activated. My trauma is being activated when I'm looking to connect with this new person.
Well, and even backing up a bit, I mean, I've had some partners that are, they'll get a new wedding ring and they'll put it on their right hand, their ring finger in the right hand, and I'm kind of marrying myself, and they're like, I don't know that I want to do this again. I'm maybe, if it's a female partner, I'm gonna just travel the world with my girlfriends, or I don't think I want to do this again and take these risks. So I think I've seen that. Now what ends up happening down the road is a different story, but I think even some of the barriers I've seen aren't just post breakup, divorce, whatever we're talking. Like there also is the separation process and how that goes down. There's, if they've got kids, it's custody type issues, it's financial issues, and sometimes partners, if they've experienced other forms of abuse, they may have had financial dependence, and that gets complicated. So I guess I just think before we're even talking to dating, there may be a whole host of complications even before we get there. So that may be another whole conversation at some point, but I'm just thinking some of the barriers I've seen isn't just when a partner's ready to start dating again. It's all the stuff that happens even prior to that. Those are the things I see a lot.
I think circling back to what Jeannie was saying, which is the importance of the partner having done their trauma work. I think it's so key, because when you talk about dating, if when you're stepping into a relationship, it's vulnerable by necessity. You know, you can't really step into a relationship and you have a guarantee that everything's going to be safe. I'm stepping in, I'm being vulnerable, I'm trusting this person that I'm with to be connected with me. I'm finding out who they are. You know, you can't love without the risk of being hurt. And for partners who, you know, every relationship is different, every addict is different, every partner's relationship is different. But for many partners who walked in and they were blindsided by the addiction, I thought everything was fine, and then I found out this. How do they step into dating again if they haven't done the trauma work, where that level of trust and, you know, that risk feels unsafe?
Well, there's another piece to this, which is that I've certainly had partners where they find out and they say, okay, whatever happens with you and me, I'm going out and having sex with whomever. I'm getting on the hookup sites, I'm getting on the dating sites, but a very different intent than what you're talking about, Tim.
Yeah.
They are not looking for, they're not looking for love. They're not looking for an emotional connection. They're really looking to have sex. And so as I've worked with partners, I get very, I get curious, like, what is that? And what it seems to be is a validation around their sexuality, their attractiveness, their desirability.
Well, and
That's what I've seen.
let's call it, it's a trauma response, which is activating that piece of, am I desirable? Am I good enough? I held the promises, so it's a retaliation sometimes, but I see it as in reaction to the betrayal, that kind of, let's go out and see what else is there. I was thinking more we've done our work and separating, divorcing, ending the relationship. I'm thinking kind of back to something you said, Tim, about the trauma response. And if they didn't know it was there, and the shock of that discovery, that break, that breach, that rupture in self-confidence, of my own judgment, that I have a good understanding of what's happening in the world. And so if they had no clue, no idea, or a little bit bits, but didn't know how large, when they then go into dating situations, there's a lot of fear of, do I trust my ability to take a good first impression to judge this other person as safe or not safe? Because I thought my previous partner was safe, but that wasn't actually the reality. There was other stuff going on. So if I take the same kind of lens, same kind of set of glasses, are they safe? And I think that's a real deep part, which attaches to the fear. Do I trust my own judgment to do good, healthy assessments of others? Which is separate from, do I trust that they'll tell me the truth? I mean, that's kind of a there, but the one of, do I trust myself to know healthy? So
There's
I just want, yeah.
I think it's huge, Jeannie. There's a concept, and I heard it from Janice Cottle. I think it's hers, but this idea of hindsight signs, and I found it really helpful as an analysis. How did I not see this? So partners will feel shame sometimes, like how I feel stupid, or they'll feel like, whatever. If there's so much else that adds to the betrayal, is this extra self judgment, or I can't trust, how did I not see this? And I like the concept that we don't know what we don't know until we know it, right? And this idea that we don't assume that our husband or wife or significant other is lying to us, deceiving us, gaslighting us. We don't generally make that assumption. So why would we see some of these things if the signs are explained away? But in looking back in hindsight, were there some things that my gut said, something's not right here, don't know what it is, and somehow either I rationalized it or explained it away, or it was explained for me? Those are the things I think can start to get partners connected back with their intuition. It may not affect the safety or trust, for someone else in the future, but at least if I can see, oh, actually it wasn't, my gut was saying something, my intuition did tell me something, I just didn't know how to explain it, I didn't know how to understand it. I feel like that can be re-empowering for someone with rebuilding their intuition and trust in self again before even thinking about dating again. Do you guys see that, or how do you see all that?
I was thinking of, Dan, when you were saying that there are some partners in hindsight, oh, that's what that meant. Oh, I should have, with the gut responses. But I think the growth of self-compassion and giving some, like you said, how do I hold myself accountable for not knowing what I didn't know? So I think that's a kind of a parallel process, or not a parallel process, but an additional piece that happens along that path of, okay, what were the things that I didn't really, that were happening within my body that maybe I wasn't giving voice to or didn't have language for. And it was okay that I was loving my person and trusting them, because that's actually a good, healthy relationship skill.
I would say that the big piece would be getting others' input. So I know we're putting a lot of emphasis on the partner, trusting his or her own instinct, but with addiction, we say, hey, your thinking's off. And so we know that addiction is rooted in trauma. So we want addicts to be having a whole community of people that they run things by before they do things based on their own internal processes. So I would say it's the same for the partner, whether she has past trauma or doesn't have past trauma. We know that she's got this wound now that's going to throw her off. So, can for our audiences who are listening to this, can you make a list of people that you really, really trust? And if you start dating some, I would say also go on a lot of dates. Like if you're going to date, go on, meet a lot of different people in a lot of different circumstances. And if you are starting to really like somebody, bring them to these people that you trust and listen to what they have to say. So maybe your gut reaction is off, but hopefully their gut reaction is maybe better online than yours. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I like what you said, and I want to highlight a word. You said, when you start to really like somebody, take or need somebody, which is different than, I really like this person, I'm invested, and now I'm going to introduce them to my friends, and I'm really looking for my friends to validate how fabulous they are. It's, hey, I'm kind of liking this person, I'm interested, I'm introducing them to my friends so that they can, if I've got blind spots going on, that they can help me do that. I also think it sort of brings up the question of when do partners start to date? Or what are the, if you're somebody who, when you start to date, you tend to jump in with both feet very, very quickly, you're going to need somebody to help you sort of moderate that, so that you can find a way to step in more slowly, so you can find out who this other person really is. But like you said, who are the people I trust, that before I get to a point where I'm really into this and I'm really committed and I'm just looking for you guys to validate this person I'm with, they can help me to really see, is there something I'm missing? Because we all have blind spots.
You brought up an interesting point though, Tim. How do we know, how does a betrayed partner know when they're ready? And when is that?
What a hard thing to determine.
I think the other thing is that, I don't know if you all have been experiencing this, but in our current culture, it seems that when people date, they're having sex on the first, second, third date. And so if someone has been entrenched with sex addiction and sex addiction recovery with their addicted person, how's that going to go?
Well, here's my soapbox. I am so against that that date sex on the first, second, or third date. What happens neurologically when we have sex with another person is that the neurological chemicals that go along with orgasm and with sexual experiences with another person create this sense of bonding and connection, and we experience it as emotional safety with that other person. So if we jump into being sexual early in the relationship, we rob ourselves of the ability to find out emotionally how safe is this person and who is this person really. And so I am always talking with my clients, whether it's an addict or a partner that is moving back out into dating, hold off on sleeping with them, because if you jump into sleeping with them too soon, you're going to miss out on who they really are. I
What
also
is
I also think that there's a piece about what question we're asking. Our culture not only encourages us to jump into bed quickly, our culture also creates this idea of, in dating, you're hot and my job is to get you to be interested in me. And if you're still interested in me, then dating is successful. And I really think switching that question from, are you still into me, to, as I get to know you, are you somebody I want to continue to date? I think that that is such an important question to be able to ask. And if you can't honestly embrace that question of, as I'm finding out who they are, do I want to continue to date them? If it's continuing to date them as the default, and it only if something catastrophic happens, I'm out. I think that you're not ready to step into that yet. You need to get that individuation and that solidity so that you can ask yourself, not are they a bad person, not was this awful, but as I'm finding out who they are, is it really a good idea for me to make a committed long-term a long-term commitment to this relationship? And if it's not, let me just acknowledge that and honor that.
So
And I think to add,
oh,
yeah,
go
I
ahead,
was gonna say,
Helen.
whoa, blah, blah, blah. Dan.
yeah. Okay.
Well, I was just gonna say, to add to that, also another litmus test isn't do I want to be with them, is also, can I be my fullest self with that person? Do I like who I am with them? Do I have to feel like I have to stifle parts of myself to be in the relationship with this person? Can I be my fullest self? Now, I know that may take some time, especially post, betrayal healing to determine that. But I think that is one other test I like to see. How do I feel with that person? Do I like who I am with them?
I was going to say the piece about, I mean, we're talking betrayed partners. This episode really focused on betrayed partners and the fears that come with restarting, recreating an emotional intimacy and then possibly sexual intimacy. And I think a lot of betrayed partners aren't necessarily ready to have sex on the first date or two or three. I'm going to say it's actually, I would take the leap of saying that's way far for betrayed partners, especially ones who have done a lot of work, because the fear response of, oh wait, if this is a sexual relationship, like I don't want to have that as my primary. I want an emotional relationship that has trust and values and connection. And so I just want to speak to that population of betrayed partners who are like, I don't know if I'm going to be sexual with this person. I don't know if I'm going to be sexual ever again. That felt abused in my previous relationship, perhaps. Or I don't really know what healthy sexuality is. So there's a whole lot of fear about starting a healthy sexual relationship with a whole new person. And I'm gonna put money on the piece of, let's build the emotional intimacy. And back to your point, Tim, like, do I feel comfortable with you? That's to Dan's point. And then Tim's is, and as I get to know you, do I still want to spend time with you and get to know you more? I think that's a really important piece because it's the empowerment locus of control back to the betrayed partner.
Mm-hmm.
I choose how close I come to others. I choose what I engage in. It's back to sort of a resetting of a boundary system also.
So how do we guide partners in this? So they're in a culture, a society that's heavily motivated to, for whatever reasons, right, to be sexual quickly. And so what kind of verbiage can we give them? So, they're starting to get to know somebody online, or, when and how do they say, hey, I'm not gonna get, I'm not gonna get in bed with you right away.
I would actually back up. I mean, when you said, how do we offer guidance? For me, the first thing is I want them to have friends. If there's a partner and they are kind of isolated out there, I don't really want them dating. I want them creating a social network of people that are going to be able to, so that they've got their social fulfillments taken care of. Once that's there, then step out into dating. Also, if you've got your trauma stuff that's coming up, you've stepped in and you've actively worked on that trauma stuff, and then step into the dating. But so for me, that having, because like you were saying, do you have people that you trust who can help you see your blind spots? If you don't have that community first, get that community before you really step in to start dating.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying, like, if they realize that they love to dance, start going out and taking dance classes and going
Yeah.
social dancing, and get back into the world, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And
Okay, and
and
then once,
back into the
yeah.
world, and
now what?
connections with people who are not romantic and people who are not sexual, that are
Right.
just friends that you're getting to know.
But I was coming back kind of, Tim saying, have a group of friends. And I'm totally on board with that. And then the next step, maybe, or another step, readiness assessment, is, who are you? And I think this happens naturally when people come out of another relationship. It's the self-exploration of, who do I want to be? Am I the self I want to be now? And so kind of what you were saying there, Wendy, of taking dance classes or something, but it's doing a little bit of work on, do I feel strong in myself in the world? Who am I in the world? A little bit back to that identity formation piece. And I think that's an important stage to have a good sense of who I am in the world before I go looking or experimenting or being open to, who would I be in a relationship? So I think getting a set of friends, important. Having a good sense of who I am and what's my identity, so that I'm not looking for someone else to tell me what my identity is, And I think that's not necessarily the betrayed partner thing. I think that's a separating and who are you now thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
what
then
else would
when they start dating, then what? How do we guide them?
then we're
Wendy
back
really
to,
wants to get to this.
yeah.
The meat.
I mean, because no one talks about it. Like, the partners are out there trying to figure it out for themselves. And so it's sort of, and I get it. I agree with everything you're saying. And this piece of, okay, now, conversations team, I'm ready to go on it. I'm ready to get out there in the dating world.
Good.
How do I navigate this?
First thing, can I say one thing? First thing is, and sorry if it backs it up too much, Wendy. I think I'm not trying to. I just
pause, go
just
back,
give me a
bring
second.
the bus backwards.
I'm not trying to. It's really so. I feel like sometimes we can go binary, so it's either this or that, or it's all or nothing. So either I have trust or I don't. How am I supposed to date if I can't trust? Or it's either all or nothing, or if I don't,
Yeah.
safety. We can think of it as a light switch. Either I have it or I don't. I like to think of it in degrees. So I think my first thing I would say is, when I'm with someone on a first date, of course you don't trust that person because you don't know them, just like any of us. So, but what kinds of things, what trustworthy things do you see, or what kinds of things? And is there a level of openness or vulnerability given that level, that degree of trust or safety that you're feeling? So I guess I found people kind of not wanting to do anything because, like, well, I don't know if I could ever trust or be safe again, so I'm just not going to do it. And that could be an answer, but I don't think it has to be that. Because even if it's, let's say if it's on percentages, if I feel 5% safe, that's better than 0. And is there some movement we can make given 5%? Can we move towards something? So I that's where I like to start. That is there an opening there? And then Wendy.
I don't think that's going back, Dan. I think that's right on the mark, that it's not, am I ready? Or can I trust? It's maybe. And so when to start dating, when you feel a little bit more confident taking a risk to get to know someone, to see if you trust. to see if you enjoy their company.
Yeah.
And that's the assessment piece of not necessarily when do I start, but how, how do I enjoy this conversation? Are there things about this person that are interesting to me? Are there things about this person that match my value system?
But when Wendy, you were asking, so what to do? And I will say, and this is sort of reinforcing what we've talked about before, my suggestion is go to your friends, go to your social network and tell them, I'm ready to date. I'm open to dating. If you're having parties, if you know people, I'm open to dating. I want to be there. I'm not a big fan of dating apps and dating sites because regardless of what they say, they tend to build themselves as what we refer to as gamification, where the excitement and the reward comes from, oh, I matched with this person. And the unconscious goal of those dating apps becomes the matching and getting the, oh, here's somebody you matched with, as opposed to actually meeting them and starting a relationship. I I encourage people to go the old-fashioned way. Meet people in person, meet people at parties, have your friends set you up on a blind date. But I would go to your friends that you trust, say, hey, I'm ready to date.
So I'm gonna take a kind of so I don't know if I've divulged on the podcast, but I'm divorced. And when I first got divorced, I went on the dating apps, and it was quite the education. It's not straightforward. There are online dating coaches, there are people who can help you through that whole process. But for me, and it's personal, for me, it was like, wow, I've been in this relationship that's ended for 16 years. And so I don't know what it looks like out there. I have no idea. I'm out of the game. I'm out of the league. They didn't even have dating apps when I was in my last relationship. So can I just see who is out there? I'm just curious. And so I came to it with a spirit of curiosity. I did find a great deal of humor in the whole experience. Um, and did I go on dates? Yeah, I went on dates, and some were really good and fun, and some were awful. And it was all part of the experience of, wow, I'm in a different phase of life. I'm single again. I'm just in a different phase of life. So I hear what you're saying, Tim, because I think it, in a lot of ways, there's a lot more, what do I want to call it? There's a lot more safety and a lot more like birds of a feather flock together. So if you have friends who have friends and you meet someone at those social gatherings, chances are you're going to find someone a lot more compatible in that scenario.
And that can also be a hindrance too.
True. And so the piece around, not wanting to be sexual right away, there is the possibility of just saying, when you meet someone to say, hey, well, do you want to come back to my place? And it's like, you know what, I just need to tell you that I just got out of a relationship and I don't have sex with people right away.
Yeah, call it what
So,
it is.
right.
I need to take this a little bit more slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
if
I have sex with people I'm strongly interested in and might commit to. I mean, have direct, whatever it is right for you, and everybody's different and all that. Just having direct communication.
But
speaking
that's also part of it, right? The ahead of time working on your own internal
Yeah.
boundaries, making sure am I able to share this with somebody? Because that would obviously be the prep work to do. If what are my values? What are my limits, or where do I want to take this? What are the bounds? I think it's really critical.
One of the places I also start when working with a partner, like how do you meet people thing, is I talk about the similar interests. What do you like to do?
Mm-hmm.
What are things that are important to you? And can you find other people who do that too? So if you really like to go bicycling, is there a bike club in your community? Lots of different bike stores have bicycling group, if you like to hike, if you like chess, you know, I mean, good. I mean, that's one of the positive experiences of social media and internet. You know, put your town name in and put biking club. Um, you know, insects. But the idea is finding people who have similar interests, but using your communication and clarity and sense of self.
So when we were talking about dating for the addicts, the question came up of when do you tell them that you're in recovery? As a partner who's dating, when do you share that you were in relationship with a sex addict and that you had I'm making up that it's not a first date conversation. It's probably not also I keep this a secret for the entirety of the relationship and never tell them.
Yeah, I think that's based that's an evolution. I'm making the assumption here. That's not something I'm going to say my first date. I might say that there was betrayal and go from there. But it really depends on kind of reading the room. Do I feel comfortable sharing this with this person? Am I enjoying this conversation? So I'm with you. I don't know. My recommendation would be read the room, see what your gut says, but maybe not first and at some point.
Well, and
What do you guys think?
I will just say that I think it's a conversation to have, but to be careful because you're trying to start a new relationship. So it's not that you want this to be the focus of all of your interactions with this new person, but I think it's important information that they have at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's different than the addict starting dating because there is I mean, I guess there will be an implication for this potential new partner, but I think it's just different with the addict because they're in recovery for something, and the partner, I think, deserves to know that before. I'm sorry, the new dating partner deserves to know that before they become sexual. I don't know that's the same for the partner. They can. There's a piece of it. I don't think there's an obligation to share it at any given point. I think it's obviously a part of intimacy and depth of a relationship to share, but I don't think it's the same kind of urgency that an addict would have.
Yeah, I agree.
I wouldn't say it's the same kind of urgency, but I would say that it's when you get to the point in the relationship where you're talking about past relationships, who you are and how you came to be the person you are, and you're sharing your histories. It's a big part of history because most betrayed partners are going to have a bit of extra sensitivity to trust issues, intimacy issues, sexual issues. They're going to have extra sensitivity. And not that that's wrong or bad, but it's just part of the conversation. Part of the conversation.
I think also that there's a piece too, and I think this is now a potential question for anybody that's dating is, do you want to ask certain questions like, what's your relationship to pornography? Is that important or not? And, phrase that way. Let's face it, porn is so normalized now in our culture. But for partners, I can't imagine a partner saying, "Oh, if I'm with someone new, it's okay if they watch porn." To me, I don't think that would be in the cards. So, is that a fair question to ask on, a third date, a fourth date, a fifth date?
You asked, is it a fair question? My thought was, it's all fair. Because that's part of who are they? Do I want to be with them? Do I want to get to know them better? And so therefore, I think it's all fair.
True, but you don't want to be like, you don't want it to, you're on a first date and it feeling like you have your inquisition questions to ask. You certainly don't want to feel like that because that will push people away. So you want to build some depth.
Yeah, I agree.
So that they can fill it out prior to the first date.
I mean, but yeah, save yourself the time if this person, or issues around transparency, for example, that the partner may have had a ton of leeway in the previous relationship, but post betrayal, they may need some more reassurance about transparency. I don't know what that would look like, but that may look different. So yeah, I could see those conversations.
I think those are important conversations, and I'd want the betrayed partner to bring those forward, because otherwise I worry that it would be like a secret. Oh, I'm scared. I don't want to bring this up because I don't want to rock the boat kind of thing. It's like, no, this part of healthy relationships is asking hard questions and hearing hard information and still partner, you know, each person gets to make a decision. Do I want to continue to get to know that person?
So any final thoughts? So final thoughts you all have? Any tips you'd give for partners wanting to jump out there into the dating relationships?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Trust yourself as much as you possibly can. And if you get out there and you say, this is too scary, I'm getting off all the apps, this is ridiculous, that's fine. It's going to be a process, and your grieving probably is still going to come up no matter when you start dating again. And acknowledging that and honoring that and finding support for that. And there's a whole world out there. So go out and have some fun.
Yeah. I lean back to have a friend group and use your friend group to support you and guide you when you go into dating.
I'm going to say know yourself, which is code for doing some of your own trauma work and creating your own new self-identity. And the other part would be knowing that dating is an experiment. So coming with curiosity, experimenting. Do I like this person? Let's find out.
I second
you, Dan?
I would just say self-compassion. It's okay to go slow. You have a right to set boundaries however you need them. And you, as the exploration goes, and if you can obviously change those and see what feels safe and feels right and readjust, and that's all okay. So thank you for joining us, everybody. If you've liked this conversation, please feel free to join us in future conversations and find us on wherever you continue finding us. And
I love it.
We hope to join you next time. I hope you join us next time.
And if you've got questions that you want to send our way, we will answer them in a mailbag, and you can send those questions to conversations.sar@gmail.com.
And please like us on Facebook and on this episode.
Or just please like us in general.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. See you next time.